Hello and welcome to Bury Our Bones with Cinema, the podcast that is always finding new ways to say that we love or hate a movie. I'm joined once again by the esteemed Gaz Evans, the man whose movie knowledge holds no boundaries. In today's episode, a man's freedom hangs in the balance as we become a fly on the wall of a jury room. That's right, we are going back to 1957 with Sidney Lumet's masterpiece, 12 Angry Men. So join us as we bring up all the evidence, pace around the room in under 15 seconds, and finally try not to let our own prejudices get in the way of a verdict.
This podcast contains spoilers.
So 12 Angry Men then, so it's a masterpiece really, and shamefully, as we admitted last week after recording last week's episode, I admitted that I'd never seen it despite loving the script. And I'll just retell the story that I told you last week, so try and act as if it's the first time you've ever heard it. So my first foray into the world of 12 Angry Men was we actually performed it at university. We done a version of it because it is a play as well as being a movie, and was actually a teleplay prior to being a movie. So we done the play at university, and I had the honour of playing Juror number 3. So for anybody who doesn't know, that's the last juror who turns, the most kind of stubborn of all of them before finally, spoiler alert, changing his verdicts to not guilty. And it's also a personal regret of mine performing this play because so in the play, much like in the movie, there's long periods of time where characters don't necessarily say something because it's there's 12 characters, so everybody needs their time and their space to shine, essentially. So I'm playing juror number 3, the most stubborn, the most perhaps prejudiced of them all, and at various points throughout the film and throughout the play, the foreman decides to cast a vote and says, right, who's voting not guilty, who's voting guilty? And this was about, it wasn't even halfway through the first act. So I'd say out of a 2-hour play, this was perhaps 20 minutes in. And I'd obviously started to daydream ever so slightly, stupidly. And the foreman stands up, who I'm pretty much immediately placed next to, and says, who's voting not guilty? And as juror number 3, the person who's not supposed to turn until about 5 minutes before the end of the play, stupidly put my hand up. And to this day, it is a absolute dread and fear of mine to do something similar on the stage where you just completely lose yourself and go, I've totally lost where I am in the script. What made it worse was that we had kind of raised seating, and we were in kind of like in the round where the audience were placed around us, but they were raised so you could see them quite clearly. And opposite me, where I was sitting, was the director, who at this very moment, as I put my hand up 20 minutes in and saying not guilty when I'm supposed to be the most dogged in his opinions, I just see his head just face palm into his hands. And at that moment, I thought, I don't think I'm getting a very good grade in this particular piece. I did manage to get an all right grade. I think the reason why, and specifically this film, I hadn't watched it at the time because, it's kind of a bit of a rule when you're doing a play which has already been done before, don't go and watch it because you start to copy that performance. So I specifically didn't. And I think after that, some kind of subconsciously, despite loving the script, haven't been able to return to it until now. So,
well, it was the same with me when I was playing Mr. Poppy in Nativity the Musical on stage.
Which was people a great show.
Astonished that I hadn't seen the film. I never wanted to anyway, because as a teacher, anything that's sent at school is not top of my list. But yeah, no, I hadn't seen that film up until when I performed it. Oh man, sorry, you probably picked up on the mic, me kind of like Muttley over here, like kind of trying to stifle my laughs, but that is hilarious. I mean, that must have been really tricky to have got out of and unforgettable.
I think I was also the last person to exit the stage at the interval.
Yeah.
And so I had to walk into a room of 11 of my peers staring at me going, what the fuck were you thinking? It wasn't my finest moment. So.
And I wonder, in the play, are there the alternate jurors? Because there are 2 alternate jurors who are dismissed at the very beginning of the film, and you never see them again. I wonder if you're an alternate juror in the play, you're hitting the bar, very, very quickly, and you're not coming back.
I think it's pretty much, barring a few perhaps slight changes to lines. I think it's pretty much as written.
Yeah,
which is I think watching this for the first time, but obviously knowing the script, I think one thing which I took away from this the most is that ultimately, for me, this is kind of like the pinnacle of just great script writing and great acting. But that's not to take away from the direction, because it is shot in fantastically, especially for 1957. It's incredibly modern in its technique. And
well, this is a masterclass in taking something that very much is clearly a play and turning it into something cinematic, turning one room and one table, and that's about it, into something distinctly cinematic. I mean, it's got no right to be, but this is probably the most phenomenal film for close-ups, and just this was my film for my favorite film for a number of years. I remember, I think I was in my early 20s or mid 20s, and I had never seen it before. I'd read about it in Empire and a couple of things, and I knew it was supposed to be a masterpiece and all that sort of stuff, and I just never got around to seeing it. And it was on Channel 4 one afternoon, and I was laying on a sofa in the middle of the afternoon, so I must have been in my early 20s. And it was on, and I just started watching it. It was on Channel 4. I started watching it, and it was as gripping as any thriller. It was, such a wonderful film to watch and experience. And you are so invested in these characters. And, from the very beginning, all 12 of these characters are distinct from each other before they even open their mouths. It's just, the acting is incredible. They each have a thing, don't they? They each have perhaps an ideology or just a quirk or a prop. I like we're nowhere near it at the moment, but at the end when the camera swoops over the table after they've all left, and you just see the detritus and the indexical signs of who was sat there beforehand, and there's just a little kind of physical memory of who they all were. It is brilliant, and I wish I'd gone to see it, because I know it's in London every now and again. And so it was my favourite for a long time. And I show it every other year or so at film club to students, and they are gripped by it. And it's just a perfect it's a perfect plot device as well. Just seeing these, it's like, okay, how are these different characters going to fall? It seems impossible at the beginning that all of them would somehow have their minds changed, and there's something blocking all of them. It might be, perfectly reasonable logic and getting rid of every possible, explanation. It might be, there's prejudice, there's personal kind of bias, there's life experience, there's racism, there's, I've got to get out of here, I don't want to be here, let's just vote guilty so we can all go. There's indecisiveness, there's callowness, there's, honor and decency. It's got everything. It's such a really, you can put all kinds of metaphors all over it. It's a very distinctly American film as well. And it must have been, I think it's the first time I paid attention to Sidney Lumet as well, who I think has somehow I don't know, when we talk about the great directors, especially the great American directors, somehow he's never quite in the conversation. We talk about our Scorseses and our Kubricks and our, Spielbergs and, all of this, but Lumet never quite gets there. And I just don't know why, because he's an amazing film. I mean, look at the Network, Dog Day Afternoon, The Anderson Tapes, The Pawnbroker. Even, Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, he was working right the way up and he just never stopped. And I think his films are a real journey of American masculinity. I think he could chart, because he worked in pretty much every decade from the 50s up, right to the end of his life. And yeah, they're all kind of quite, about American institutions and American men and masculinity and kind of just kind of ideology and that sort of stuff. I think he's a fascinating director and well worth kind of digging into.
Yeah, it's hard not to immediately get on board with Sidney Lumet. Like this, I think probably off the top of my head, this is probably the first of his films that I've seen, and it's not going to be the last, because this movie is just so good. Like, I almost give a film from the 50s or the 40s or the 30s, if it manages to grip me like a film from last year in the same way, then I give it more credit, because filmmaking in the 1950s is so different to filmmaking now. And I think for a lot of people, 50s kind of movies where that, they all had that sound and that acting style, where it was all, almost like you had to speak quicker, because it was, it was all about money. And this feels like it was made yesterday.
It doesn't feel like an American studio system film at all. It doesn't.
It feels so, subject matter feels so relevant today. Acting style seems like so, there's a few kind of phrases and a few, ways in which things are worded which do age it, but it's like the acting style is so modern whilst also being so classic at the same time. And I think it's one of those scripts, and particularly this interpretation is one of those films where obviously the stars of the show are Henry Fonda and Lee J. Cobb, but there isn't anybody letting the side down here.
No.
Yes, okay, there may be people, and it's all. I always say this, doing a lot of amateur dramatics and yourself as well. Sometimes you'll get people who, I don't want to do that part. They've only got a couple of lines, or they're not a very big part. I'm not interested in that. And actually, I love those smaller roles because sometimes people take them for granted and think that they can just rock up and, but actually here, not that I'm saying everybody did. I don't know the rehearsal schedule and what people were like in real life, but it feels like every single person was knee deep in their character, knew what they were bringing to the table, knew why they were there, knew the importance of that particular juror. And I think in a script like this, obviously, it's quite inherently important because everybody's vote is as valuable as the next person's.
Yeah.
But in terms of a piece of acting, and everybody is so important, because if you have 11 jurors like juror number 3, then by an hour in you're like, shut up.
Right?
But you've got the light and the shade, you've got the the man, Henry Fonda, who brings that American, he was at this point, he was essentially the symbol of America, and he brings that. He starts talking and you want to listen. And you're like, hang on a minute, like, it's Henry Fonda. Let's listen to what he's saying. And okay, yes, that's from a point of view of watching the movie, but in terms of what he brings to the character, as soon as he starts talking, you're like, okay, well, he's not shouting. He's just being logical. He's being calm, and he's being, incredibly thoughtful in what he says. And actually, that's why everybody listens to him, because he's so...
I remember, did you used to get the Halliwell's film books? Do you remember them? These big, like, yellow pages size books full of like every film that they could cram in, a little review.
Yes,
some technical details.
I've got one upstairs,
and Video Hounds was a good one. I used to get that. I wonder if they still do them. But Halliwell's was like the quintessential kind of like the Bible. It'd be produced every single year. It'd be updated every year. I'd get one for Christmas every year. And Leslie Halliwell, the critic who compiled it, was notoriously difficult to please. So he had a 4-star system, and very, very few films got a full 4 stars. A lot got basically 0. But this got 4. And what he would do is he'd have the cast list, and he'd write them in italics if a cast member had put in a particularly amazing performance. And this film, all of them were in italics. Every single actor was in italics, which I thought was a lovely touch.
Yeah, like that. Everybody here is just so on point and so understands what they're doing and why they're there. And I think so many times you get you get films where there are the lead characters, there are the supporting characters, and then there are people who are there just to get get the story across and are there to form a function. Whereas here, you take any one of these jurors out, and it doesn't quite fit together in the same way. It's like they're all puzzle pieces, and they all fit perfectly with each other. And I think I recognise, I'd say probably 3 faces here. Lee J. Cobb, who has a link to the Exorcist.
Yes.
And interestingly, in the 97 version, it was played by,
George C. Scott.
George C. Scott, who also has a link to The Exorcist. So that's quite a nice little kind of...
and more than that, George C. Scott twice playing a character who was originally played by Lee J. Cobb. Because in The Exorcist 3, he plays Kinderman.
Yes,
And in the original Exorcist, Kinderman was played by Lee J. Cobb. So twice, at least, George C. Scott has done a new interpretation of the character originally played by Lee J. Cobb.
And I think it's a testament, for me anyway, to Lee J. Cobb's ability, because here he is like I really dislike his character in terms of. I like his character in terms of as a movie fan, because I like to watch. But in terms of like, if this person was in the pub with me, or this person I knew or whatever, I would really, really dislike him. Which is so different from how he is in The Exorcist, where he's incredibly likable and incredibly, delicate in his investigative approach. And
my favourite is juror number 4, just there that we saw, played by. E.G. Marshall.
Yes.
Went on to he was in Interiors, that Woody Allen film, the first serious Woody Allen film, and a few other things. Some of these guys went on to go through new American cinema and, kind of survive the eradication of the studio system to carry on right the way through. I think it's testament to their work in this, that you can see the kind of modern acting style. These are all kind of really sharp performances.
And I think, but prior to this, only Henry Fonda and Lee J. Cobb were kind of well established.
Was this before or after On the Waterfront?
So this is after On the Waterfront. This is 57. I think On the Waterfront is 54.
Right,
I think.
Yeah.
So they were the established.
So
when
Brando had been along and shaken things up.
So when I say established, obviously you've got older actors, but they weren't, they may have been slightly recognisable, but they weren't, name value that you're adding to this. Whereas I think a lot of people went on to do a lot of stuff here. The one that for I'd say a good hour, I'm watching, I'm going, where do I recognise that face from? Who is that guy?
Yeah.
And it's Jack Klugman, and I'm going, it's Quincy.
Quincy, yes.
And it's like
he only died relatively recently, that guy.
And it's just sometimes it's so like shocking to see somebody in it's a bit like watching Michael Caine in the 60s compared to Michael Caine now. It's two different people almost, because that naturally with age you play different characters. Just one thing, because we've just gone past it, but there's a great bit with, let me just double check. The only thing with this is trying to recognise which juror is which, because they don't have names.
No.
Which I think adds to the element of you get to know their characteristics rather than them as a person, because they don't have names, so it's a lot more difficult to identify them. But I believe it is juror number, just trying to work my way around the table, I think it's juror number 6, which is Edward Binns.
Yes.
There's a bit where he's talking to Henry Fonda, and the way it's shot is Henry Fonda is essentially dead behind the camera.
Yes.
Or that's where, and Edward Binns is juror number 6 is just eyeballing the camera.
Yes. Yeah.
Which again it feels like such a modern breaking the fourth wall technique that I was so surprised to see in 1950 in a film made in 1957. This film, and we've said it before, but I feel like this is the film that really has kind of, managed to completely change my kind of expectations of films from this era. So I will be going back and watching films from the 50s that perhaps I was interested in but never really watched because it was from the 50s.
Yeah.
And this is just such a hallmark of American cinema and in just cinema in general. It's so every single thing is so on point. There isn't anything that
the camera movement is just wonderful. It's just nice. It's so careful and not overstated, but just it's not flashy, but it's just so perfectly calibrated.
Yeah, I think it really captures that fly on the wall aspect, like we're in the room with them. That's the one thing I got more than anything, because I felt like I was just sitting at the back in the room watching what's going on. At no point did I kind of remember I'm watching a movie. It felt really, really immersive. And
this is another kind of great example of like the typical conventional over the shoulder shot conversations. For directors, apparently scenes around a table now this is one of my favorite shots, this one coming up. So juror number 4 is talking about children with slum backgrounds, and the camera just really subjectively closes in on juror number 5, who up until now has been pretty quiet, and that's telling you that he was a slum kid and he takes person, and it's such a brilliant performance.
And it's such a subtle thing to do, where a lot of people wouldn't pick up on, myself included, until you've just said it. But one thing I got from that when I was watching it was that, okay, we really need to listen to what this guy's saying. We need to, pull focus onto him.
Yeah.
And, that way of storytelling, like I think a lot of directors would probably try and do too much here to make it more interesting, rather than just going, actually, the script's on point, the script's shit hot, the actors know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I'll take a step back and just let them do what they need to do.
That's it. There is a way to direct this in a very functional, workmanlike, perfunctory way. And this is not done in those ways at all. I was saying that, apparently kind of scenes around a table are quite difficult to actually pull off, because you got to establish geography, you got to establish eye lines between the different characters and that sort of stuff. And this film has so many inventive ways of filming around a table. So, these camera moves, right, almost kind of what Scorsese would become known for, like these kind of quick kind of zooms in on these characters as they get more and more frustrated and that sort of stuff. We see that kind of wide angle, almost like a fisheye lens, when juror number 1, the foreman, has stood up and is addressing all of them. It's one of the... And, they're all looking towards the camera, looking towards him, and we get them all in one shot. It's a really kind of compacted shot. So there are dozens of ways that this scenario was filmed, which makes it really, really cinematic.
Yeah, I think it's a testament to really kind of understanding what you've got in front of you, because I think there's so many times where you see potential, or you see a great script or some great acting, but everything else around it isn't up to scratch. And here, everything is up to scratch. And I just want to go through the cast because there, as I said earlier, everybody here is 100% taking the slack here. So we've got juror number 1, who's played by Martin Balsam. We've got juror number 2, played by John Fielder.
So Martin Balsam probably even more famous for being the private detective in Psycho.
Yes, yeah. Lee J. Cobb, as we've mentioned, is juror number 3. E.G. Marshall is juror number 4.
Yeah,
Jack Klugman, Quincy, is juror number 5. Edward Binns is juror number 6. Jack Warden is juror number 7.
Do you know the film I associate Jack Warden with? Because I saw him in it first. Problem Child. He's granddad in Problem Child.
I haven't seen Problem Child.
It's probably for the best, but yeah, that was big back in the day. That film.
I was looking through his IMDb, and obviously he went on to do lots and lots of stuff, and he looks completely different in his older years. So I was like, which? And of course, because he hasn't got a character name, like, which juror is that?
Yeah,
juror number 8 is obviously Henry Fonda. Juror number 9 is Joseph Sweeney. Juror number 10 is Egg Bedley. Juror number 11 is George Voskovec, and juror number 12 is Robert Webber. And
he'd been in, was it Rope or Strangers on a Train? He was in something, one of the Hitchcocks, I'm sure. And there are some Hitchcockian elements to this film.
Yes, I agree.
It's a really inventive framing and camera work and that sort of stuff. Although, obviously, this is full of dialogue, and Hitchcock avoided dialogue where he could and just told it all through the camera. But I think this is a really kind of perfect kind of marriage of that sort of thing, really.
I think a film where it is set in one setting and it is very much dialogue dependent has a lot of pitfalls and traps that you can fall into. One of the things which is kind of almost an unwritten rule, where if you're going to be in one location, is don't make the film too long. Here it's just over an hour and a half, which is just at the right amount of time that we need for this story to be told. Another one that I immediately think of as just in one location is Phone Booth.
Yes.
Which is, I think, even shorter, like an hour and 20. But it's almost a thing of you've got to make sure that you skim all the fat off. You can't, we can't really spend too much time here having long explorations into backstory. It needs to be told. If we're going to get that, it needs to be told in other ways. And I think one of the ways it does that, probably because of how it feels like it's much more of a play script than a Hollywood script, is when you've got 12 actors on stage all at the same time. There's one thing of always be doing something. You don't want, long periods of time where you're just sitting there or just standing there. So everybody has to be doing their character thing, their character trait.
That's right,
And I think it's very, very prevalent here, where you see so many shots where the focus is on two characters or one character, but in the background there's somebody there doing something. There's somebody there.
Look at that.
Man,
it's such a good film. So I just get wrapped up with it.
That knife into the table, and that zoom in is delightful, absolutely delightful.
Oh, I love this, but here it is, fucking so cool.
Lighting in this as well for a film that's in black and white needs to be on point as well.
When Henry Fonda gets that knife out, it's like, oh man, it's such a great gotcha moment. There are quite a few gotcha moments in this where you get quite satisfied seeing smug characters kind of getting outwitted.
And what's great with Henry Fonda's character is he seems to be the one most of the time delivering or doing that duty. And in one instance he puts the knife on the table and it's like that's the visual of gotcha. There's another time where towards the end where juror number 3, Lee J. Cobb, is going to attack him and he says, I'm going to kill you, and he says, you don't really mean that, do you?
Absolutely.
And obviously it calls back to the line where they're talking about, he said the words, I'm going to kill you. It's just so many of those gotcha moments. And I mean, I love legal dramas anyway. I don't think there are enough of them about. There's a lot of bad ones, But legal dramas, courtroom dramas, I absolutely love. I love the way in which, very cinematically and in a very Hollywood way, you see a lawyer take what's been said by a witness and twists it and proves their point. And, one of my favourite films is Runaway Jury.
Yeah.
I think that's a fantastic film.
Oh, yeah.
And, this is the other side of it. You don't often see jury rooms.
No, true.
Off the top of my head, probably the reason why we don't see many jury films is because it's always going to be compared to 12 Angry Men.
Yeah.
We see, Runaway Jury is perhaps the only one that I can think of off the top of my head. There obviously probably are more. But usually we see the courtroom more than anything.
Yeah.
And I often find when I do watch bad legal dramas, it's always a thing of like, how good is the rug pull moment? How good is the gotcha moment?
Yeah.
And often the gotcha moments aren't particularly great. They're not very imaginative. Whereas here, they're very, very simple, but they're so clever. The fact that on the face of it, you would kind of question, okay, so Henry Fonda's character has gone to a pawn store or whatever it may be and picked up a similar knife. Why has he done that? And it's purely because he's going, I wonder how difficult it is to get that knife. I wonder how, everything we've been told by these lawyers is, can we take that at face value? And I think that's really kind of the first moment where there's reasonable doubt for a lot of people.
Yeah. And it's almost like, I was watching Traitors last night, the Traitors finale.
As was I.
Yeah, fantastic. And it's a great concept. And this has got this kind of, I think one of the reasons why people are really gripped by this film still, obviously is amazing, but is the kind of gamification of it. Yes. It is, you get invested and you think, and you are confronted with your own possible preconceptions and your own possible kind of ideologies and possible prejudices and kind of instincts. And I think that's what makes it quite a universal film in that regard.
And I think what makes it even better is that we never really know. All we know is what they've decided. Yeah. We don't know, a modern film or a lesser film would certainly, have it take place, add another 10 minutes on the end, and we find out whether or not the kid did it.
Yeah, that's it.
And actually, that's not the point of this at all. The point is you've got 12 people, because that's the thing. It's called 12 Angry Men. My version, when I done it at uni, we had mixed cast.
Yeah,
and I think it's essentially you've got 12 people from different backgrounds, different walks of life, and how do you make those people agree?
Yeah.
How do you get to a point where those people agree or disagree, and why do they disagree? Is it because of the evidence, or is it because of their prejudices, or is it because of their biases, or whatever it may be? And that's the interesting thing here. You can almost take out all of the subject matter. That's interesting, but what we're really interested in is, why is Henry Fonda so different from E.J. Cobb?
Yeah.
Why is juror number 4 so different from juror number 5? It's those things where you go, actually, you put these 12 men in a different situation where they're deciding on, who's going to be in the starting lineup for the World Cup final, and perhaps slightly less interesting movie, but you're going to get the same thing because everybody's got their own, they're bringing their own things to the table.
We didn't talk about it because we were talking through about the beginning. One of the few scenes that's actually outside this room is obviously in the courtroom itself.
Yeah.
And just the shot over the shoulder of the kid who's on trial as he looks towards the jury members as they leave. Some of them just walk past them. Some of them glance back a little bit. Some of them look at their watches. And then we cut back on the reverse to the kid, and he's got those lovely big kind of sorrowful brown eyes, and it looks like a shot from like a Italian neo-realism or something like that, like from Bicycle Thieves or one of those kind of classical Italian. So it's just got that wonderful face, and it's like he's watching them go, and it's just that this is how you say without words, this kid's life is in somebody else's hands, and it's just brilliant.
And I love the different approaches to that situation. Obviously, we've got Henry Fonda, who's like, we owe him a few words at the very least. You've got, juror number 12, who's just like, he doesn't really care. He's just there, and he's like, I just kind of don't really want to be here. And he's, he's not actually really focused on anything. He's more focused on his life as a marketing agent.
Yeah.
And
these are the two on the end, 11 and 12, that maybe slightly, and 6 get slightly less to do than the others.
Yeah.
And interestingly, as I was thinking back on this film, and this paradoxically, as I was thinking back on this film, because you've set us a challenge, haven't you, which we'll come on to later, and it's prompted us to think about all these characters individually. And as I was thinking back without rewatching it and not seeing it for a couple of years, although I've seen it plenty, the one I was like going through all of them and like, oh, number 1 is this guy, number 2 is this guy. The one that I forgot is juror number 5. And I think that's testament to Jack Klugman's performance as someone who's just keeping himself to himself.
Yeah.
And he was the one that I overlooked. And I think that's not because it wasn't a memorable performance or that he's any less important. It's that he's so effective as someone who is quiet, reserved, and didn't want to be center of attention, which made me forget about him.
And also the aspect of his character where, do you really listen to him? Because he doesn't, he's not forceful. He's not very articulate compared to some of the other characters. He's kind of dead bang in the middle.
Yeah.
And because of that, it's almost like if he did say anything that of merit, would anybody really listen?
Yeah.
If it was juror number 5 trying to convince everybody would go no, and he'd be like, oh, fair enough. And then it'd be the end of the movie. And that's not a criticism. It's a testament to that character and to the performance of that character. So the challenge we've set ourselves is to, if we were making a 2025 version, who would we cast in each role? But before we get to that, have you seen the 1997 TV movie?
Once. Once. So it was William Friedkin, wasn't it?
It was.
And it's still, it's not quite as famous as this one, but nobody's got much of a problem with it. But from what I remember and from what I've read up on, there are more modern changes. I mean, it's a mixed cast. There are 3 or 4 African-American actors and characters in it. But otherwise, it's almost like a shot-for-shot remake.
Yeah, and one that is
the same scripts and everything.
One that is sort of fairly well respected, unlike
And it's another great collection of actors as well.
Yeah, so go through the cast of that one. So in the role of the foreman, or juror number 1, is Courtney B. Vance.
Yeah.
In the role of juror number 2 is Hume Cron. And the role of juror
he was number 2, was he?
Yeah.
I would have put him as number 9.
I think juror number 2 is that character which it could be quite easy to get that kind of small in stature.
Yeah.
And actually, my casting is kind
of. Oh, don't tell me.
I'm not going to tell you, but it's kind of the exact opposite.
I can't wait for this.
So yeah, juror number 2 is that character you could, quite easily go for those characters who are easily pushed over, and obviously the small stature of that gives that characteristic a little bit more merit. And I sometimes think, and it's not a criticism of the performance here or in either version, but I think having a slightly taller actor means that the performance has to convey that so much more.
Yes,
which is why I've chosen who I've chosen, which we will get on to. But juror number 3, as we've mentioned, is played by George C. Scott. Yeah. Juror number 4 is Armin Mueller-Stahl. Juror number 5 is Dorian Harewood. Juror number 6 is James Gandolfini.
Great choice, yeah.
I mean, if he'd have been alive, he would have been my juror number 3.
Yes,
and I think
agree.
if it had been made post Sopranos, he would have been juror number 3 without a doubt, I think. But he brings I can't say enough good things about James Gandolfini. He's
Hmm.
never been he may have been in a bad film, but he's never been bad in a film. Juror number 7 is Tony Danza, who I can't hear his name without hearing Phoebe and Friends sing Tiny Dancer, but it's Tony Danza. Juror number 8 is played by Jack Lemmon, which I think is a great bit of casting in a different way.
Yeah.
I think Henry Fonda is that kind of all-American archetype, whereas I think Jack Lemmon is almost like the wise granddad. Or certainly at that point.
Yeah.
So.
And he was kind of more known for being a Billy Wilder, kind of fast-talking, quick-witted sort of guy, rather than the kind of slightly slower-paced character of Juror number 8. But yeah.
Juror number 9 was played by Ossie Davis.
Ah, that's a good idea.
Juror number 10 was played by Mykelti Williamson.
Cool.
Juror number 11 was played by Edward James Olmos. And juror number 12 was played by William Peterson.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I was watching that version and going, this is in 97 now.
Yeah.
In 2025, could you put those?
Yeah.
You could put those characters in, or some of them in different roles.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
I haven't chosen any of them.
No, I did avoid them all.
For the fact that we know, they've been in, they've already been in it. So I think one thing that is so prevalent in this particular script is obviously it's not subtle in its approach to prejudice. It's quite right there, front and center, and I think because of that, I think this script is so timeless, and I think actually it certainly made me look at things in 1957 we think were night and day compared to 2025, but actually, are they that different? Okay, yes, the ethnicities that they're referencing or the backgrounds that they're referencing may be different, but the approach sometimes is still the same. You look in the news and you see the way in which a certain demographic is spoken about, and it's very, very similar to how it was spoken about a different demographic in the 1950s.
Yeah,
and I think it takes a really intelligent script and a really intelligent group of actors to take that and not have it be either flippant to the point where it's almost offensive, and on the other side of it, for it not to be shock and awe, where it's like you've put that phrase or that word or that slur in there just because, and I think it's a really nuanced film that is so relevant. Like if you release this yesterday, I think it would get the same reaction as it got in 1957.
Well, I mean, and remember as well, I mean, this was released, 7 or 8 years before, the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Act, so, I mean, there would have been people when this was released probably seen it as, a liberal piece of rubbish, because it's, there is a lot of empathy and sympathy for the more prejudiced characters in this, especially during number 3. But they're either out that they are seen as the problems here, and for 1957, that's a hell of a swing.
It's a very brave thing to tackle,
And paradoxically, of course, there's no people of color on the jury. I don't even know if people of color were permitted on juries. I really don't. It wouldn't seem like. Might have to double check that, but that would explain perhaps why they are all well. I don't know. It might have depended on the district or the state.
I think it probably would have done.
But I'm sure I read about it in a John Grisham book once.
So a quick Google search.
Yeah.
So they were technically allowed to serve on juries under federal law, but in practice they were systematically and widely excluded, especially in the South.
Yeah. So what's the most interesting about the remake is having Mykelti Williamson, Bubba, playing the most prejudiced character in the remake, which is very interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's that's what I love both versions, and I think perhaps if I'm pushed, maybe the 97 version is slightly more accessible for somebody who's was born in the 90s or even the 80s. It's perhaps slightly more accessible because you recognise some more of the faces more than anything. But taking that and flipping it on its head and going, okay, well, here's a minority being prejudiced against another minority.
Yes, yeah.
And that adds a totally different layer to it.
yeah.
You know, suddenly it's not, you know, for lack of a better term, you know, the mean, mad white man just, you know, hating on African Americans. Suddenly here's a man who's been, you know, racially abused probably, and now he's doing the same thing because of how his experience have shaped him. You know, I think it's such a different take on the character, whilst also being virtually the same script.
Yeah,
you
and
know.
that's the interesting thing. I think the time is ripe actually for a new version of this, and you know, it would probably be mixed sex by now as well, and that would be interesting again. But with the same script, I wonder how that would look. That would be a really interesting challenge.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things I said last week. It's one of the things that I'd love to direct the play.
Yeah,
because I think it's, you know, I think there's a lot of stuff happening, particularly in Britain at the moment, where you get these culture clashes and these opinions of vast extremes. And I think it's such an interesting, as I said earlier, such an interesting dynamic of putting 12 people with different backgrounds in a room and asking them to try and agree on something.
Yeah.
You know,
I just looked at Juror number 10, and as I was thinking of the mixed sex kind of thing, I was thinking Kathy Bates.
Yeah. I was very close to putting you know, females in the cast.
I was thinking about it.
The only reason I didn't is just purely because it's called 12 Angry Men.
That's right, yeah.
You know, purely more than anything.
Yeah.
However, who I don't actually know the actress's name, so I am just going to quickly Google her, who I would have put in Juror number 7 if I was...
Juror number 7?
Sorry, Juror number 3. I would have cast Jeanette McTeer, who is in Ozark.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
I would have cast
Oh,
her.
yeah, Helen.
Yes.
Oh, man. We only recently watched that. We loved it, but I thought I fumbled the ending. I thought the ending was naff.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it got to
there were
the
some
point
moments
where it was
that,
like,
and some things that should have been
there.
devastating, but they weren't.
There. Yeah, that's who her or what's his name from Glee, Jane Lynch.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Those were the characters that I would have. I did find it quite difficult actually trying to cast it because I kind of in the end ended up going for kind of who I want to see in that environment rather than necessarily across the board. This person is right for that character more than anything.
Well, there is a kind of female equivalent. The closest thing I can think of, I don't know if you saw Women Talking a couple of years ago.
No.
Fantastic film. Sarah Polley directed it. Saw it at the cinema, and it's basically probably close to 12 women from a Mennonite or Amish community in a barn talking about leaving the community. Because they're all in one way or another kind of subjugated or abused by their husbands or by their community. And they all gather together to argue about the merit of staying or going. It's a hell of a film. And I was going to save it to the end when we talk about further recommendations, but Women Talking is brilliant. Brilliant film.
Just from the look of it, that's got Frances McDormand, hasn't it?
Oh, and Claire Foy and who else?
Lots of recognisable names.
Yeah. Jessie Buckley. I'm surprised it's not as big as
Rooney
it
Mara
was. Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Maybe
it's the tail end of COVID. I don't know.
2022. So probably it was just getting
so
to
it didn't get
point.
the traction it deserved. But that's a brilliant film.
I mean, Frances McDormand is another one you could put in.
Yeah.
To be fair, you could put Frances McDormand in Juror number 3 or Juror number 8.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, I think of a very gentle turn in Fargo and Almost Famous. she could be juror number 8 as well. You know,
yeah, either role would suit her, but again, not in my list. So obviously, you know, box office numbers at the time were vastly different to what they are now. So this was made on a budget of around, I think they tried to get it under $400,000, which was around about 250 grand in British sterling. So that's the equivalent today of about just under 4 million.
Yeah.
And it took back at the box office 2 million. So obviously, what's that, 4 times its budget, which is the equivalent of about 23 million today. And I think it's surprising we haven't seen more versions of this, because we know that Hollywood isn't really that concerned about tarnishing a legacy of a great movie.
Yeah.
So I can't see that being the reason why not. And also because this surely is a cheap film to make.
Yeah, I mean, it would probably be the stars that would inflate the price.
Exactly. One of the little tidbits from backstage is that the only way they could keep it under 400 grand at the time was by Henry Fonda taking a reduced fee.
Yeah, that sounds about
I think
right.
he was quite pivotal in getting it made. He really wanted to get it
Well, you
made.
do hear about a lot of actors will be in things at a vastly reduced rate if it's with a particular director, perhaps. I mean, Woody Allen was famous for it. Loads of people cut their fee to the bone to work with him. And if it's something as revered as this, I mean, I think actors, especially big stars, they do appreciate being able to sink their teeth into something like this rather than another blockbuster. So they probably will, or they'll produce it themselves, you know, sort of thing that, you know, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck would be in something like this. They'd have no problem. Brad Pitt would produce something like this. George Clooney would produce something like this. You know,
well, I think
certainly would.
He's not in my cast list, but George Clooney kind of fits into that Juror number 8 role quite seamlessly. You know, maybe not quite as revered as Henry Fonda was at the time or is now, but you know, it's surprising to me, because I think in a day and age where there are reboots, remakes, reimaginings, remasters, whatever you want to call them, where they just rehash the same old shit that we've seen time and time again, and often to a lesser degree. So it's surprising they haven't kind of touched this again, because it's.
I don't know if it's contentious either, because I think if it was literally men, 12 Angry Men, I mean, maybe there would be a little bit of blowback. You know, it can't all be men, you know, and debates about the fact, well, nowadays, I mean, anyone could be on a jury. There might be that sort of reluctance. Or, I mean, I don't know, there maybe it is too outdated now and too much would have to change. I mean, even the dialogue and that sort of stuff, and there's quite a few anachronisms and that sort of thing. Maybe no one's willing to touch it. Or, you know, maybe it's just number 12 on the list at the moment, and they'll get to it eventually after they've done another remake of this or a remake of that.
Yeah. Maybe they need to do another... a comic book movie that they've done 4,000 times. And you know, I often say in a world where we've seen, and don't get me wrong, I love Batman, but I never need to see Bruce Wayne's parents getting killed on screen ever again. I get it. Whereas here, I want to see another 12 performers do this. I want to see this time and time again, because it, you know, the script and the dialogue and the words are one thing, but the vast majority of the story comes across in the nuanced performances. You know, I'm not getting vast amounts of character backstory from the dialogue. I'm getting it all from the way in which it's performed. You know, if you try to go around and go, okay, well, other than the you know, the jobs that we know people do, you know, like Juror number 12, for example, it's quite clear he's in, you know, marketing. He's basically, you know, Don Draper, or maybe not Don Draper, but Don Draper's bitch, that kind of job role. But trying to think, okay, well, what does Henry Fonda do? What does Juror number 8 do for a living?
Isn't he an architect?
Yes, he's an architect. I forgot that bit. But But, looking at all of the other characters, what do they do? What did they do before they retired? I think that's really, really interesting. And actually, how can you get that across without it being said in, and actually the fact that he's an architect and one of his points he brings up is the layout of the flat and the fact the old man has to get up, who's recently had a stroke, get up, get to his bedroom door, down the corridor and down to the front door in under 15 seconds. That if you could probably take out the fact that he tells you he's an architect, and that would tell you, well, perhaps he knows something about building layouts.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
I think I've read somewhere that, they move the walls of the set in almost, subliminally as the film goes on. They just to make it more claustrophobic.
And whilst I didn't know or notice that, there is a definite, towards the last sort of 20 minutes, there is a definite claustrophobic feel to it.
It intensifies,
It really feels like the wall, literally, and if they were, that's probably why the walls are closing in. Particularly, not so much, it's weird because every time we see Henry Fonda's character towards the end of the movie, there seems to be lots and lots of space behind him and lots of, he's quite free. Yeah. And actually, every time we go to Lee J. Cobb's character, that's where it's like he can't get away from, not that he's done a particularly great job of trying to hide his own personal biases, but by this point, he literally can't get away from it. It's so obvious. And a thing I also really, really adore is that because he's the last character to turn, he ends up turning on everybody in the room. So even the people who, juror number, let's get the right juror number. So I think it's juror number 9.
The older guy.
No, sorry, juror number 10.
Right.
He's probably, absolutely the most outwardly racist.
Yeah.
Outwardly prejudiced in this, and in also the 97 version.
Yeah.
But even somebody who's as stubborn as Lee J. Cobb, even he at that point then turns on him, despite him being the guy who's probably closely most closely aligned with in terms of viewpoint of this particular case. And that's what I find is really, really interesting, is that they all other than juror number 8, they're all kind of united in their viewpoint. And then slowly, as juror number 8 turns it around, you start to see how individually their viewpoints are completely different. Yeah. Despite them all agreeing on that one thing to begin with. And, that those close-ups at that confrontation moment between Henry Fonda and Lee J. Cobb are just... I mean, it's movie magic. It's cinematography off the scales.
It's an electric film. It's just,
even obviously, one of the contextual cues is that it's a hot summer's day, and it's really hot in there, and the aircon's not working. But I don't get the fact that they're sweating in there because it's hot. I get, especially in that scene, they're sweating because of the intensity of the discussion, and particularly in that scene where you see that sweat beading down the forehead of Henry Fonda, despite being cool, calm, and collected. You can see it's taking its toll on him just to get these people to be logical and to give this guy a chance. But
I like the fact that the film is calibrated so well. There are breaks. There are literal breaks, there are toilet breaks. There's bits where they call off. They talk about other things. They talk a little bit, like juror 7 and 8, just in the bathroom, kind of just, shooting the shit and that sort of stuff. There are moments, and they talk about the rain at the window. There's a couple of moments where things, they don't, and it's a sort of equivalent of, an advert break and, just go and put the kettle on, that sort of stuff. So I do like that there are these peaks and troughs, but it does gradually go up the scale right to the end, and it just reaches culmination. And this is another reason why juror number 4 is my favourite juror. It's my favourite character in this. He's the only one, as far as I know, who never takes off his suit jacket, never loosens his tie, never loosens his top button, never kind of mops his brow. He just is such a cool, clinical character. What I like about him is he is the last person to turn. Well, he's the second to last, but by the end of it, he's still the one who holds out and says he is guilty, and it's not because of anything other than the cold, hard facts, and he has a reasonable doubt. It comes right the way down to everything is covered except for one of the witnesses has got a visual impairment and the glasses. That's a magical moment when his resolve crumbles. And he realizes, actually, I see now that he is not guilty. It's just a wonderful, it's quite an uplifting moment. It's just, there's so many kind of goosebump moments in this film. But also, what I admire about him as a character is that when he is still voting guilty, the only other people who are voting guilty at that point, apart from him, are juror number 3 and juror number 10. The most prejudiced characters in the whole thing. And he is content to be in the company. Well, it's not like he's showing off, I'm in the, he is willing to be in the same company as those two quite vile characters, especially number 10, because it doesn't matter, because it's about the facts. It's not about whether juror number 10 is racist. It's not about whether juror number 3 has got his own personal hang-ups, which he clearly does.
I think in another world, he's in the room convincing everybody a guy is guilty when everybody thinks he's not guilty.
That's a good point, yeah.
And the fact, you've hit the nail on the head there. It takes a very intelligent and brave man to be able to say, I still think this person is guilty, despite knowing that the only other people in the room who do think he's guilty are flawed in their thinking.
Yes, yeah, that's it.
It's because it's very easy to go, if you're associated with these two people and these two people are bad, so therefore you're bad. It's very easy to do that. So let's have a look at our own 2025 fantasy casting.
Man, if we get any of them right on together, that would be...
I specifically haven't really gone for what you would call big Hollywood names. I
haven't either, actually.
Which I think it's very easy to, like, we've mentioned names like George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon.
Yeah, I haven't done any of that. No.
I think I've got one who's perhaps the biggest of them all, but still not what you would call a proper Hollywood A-lister.
I've got a few backups as well.
Yeah, there's a couple of them I couldn't quite decide on. So let's start with juror number 1. And I think we should leave juror number 3 and juror number 8 to the end.
Okay.
Let's leave those to the end purely because, they're perhaps the most pivotal of characters.
Yeah.
So juror number 1, or the foreman, who have you got in that role?
Chiwetel Ejiofor.
I tell you what, I almost put him in here.
Did you?
Almost. Not in juror number 1, but I almost put him in I think I almost put him in juror number 10's role. Sorry, juror number 11's role. But I didn't. Yeah.
I think at the end of this, we're going to be stuck looking at each other's eyes thinking, this is the guy who's got the other half of my medallion. This is this is my guy.
We're not gonna do any.
We're gonna have to have a word with our wives. We're gonna have to sit them down, listen carefully. Something's happened. Yeah.
So my juror number 1, or foreman, is Noah Emmerich.
Ah, okay, yeah, cool.
I've just finished watching The Americans.
I've got to do that.
He plays Stan Beeman in that, and he is phenomenal.
Noah Emmerich, the best friend in the Truman Show.
Yes, yeah. I think he's so good at being very calm and collected.
Yeah,
but also has that side to him who, if you cross him, he can put you in his place. He can put you in your place. Yeah. And I think he would be perfect in that role.
Oh, good one. Good one.
I've
got to watch The Americans. It's been on my watch list for a long time.
It's really, really, really good.
Oh, cool.
Really good.
You watch it with Hannah?
No, she doesn't like any of that stuff. There's she's very much into heated rivalry at the moment. It's very much heated rivalry or nothing.
Yeah.
She's very much in that craze. So, juror number 2. So, this is when I was saying earlier about casting, and you could cast a smaller actor in stature.
I've gone that way, but
okay,
that's where I started. But I have found someone who I think would be perfect, not just because of his stature.
Hit me with it.
Toby Jones.
Toby Jones, yeah.
Yeah.
That fits almost perfectly.
You like that?
I do like that. I do like that. I went a different direction.
Yes.
I went for John Carroll Lynch.
Oh, wow. Possible Zodiac in Zodiac.
The possible Zodiac in the Zodiac.
Yeah.
Not because of his performance in Zodiac.
Yeah.
But he is also in The Americans. I promise you it's not just full of The Americans cast. But he's very good at being very, very vulnerable and almost a bit of a pushover, despite being what I believe is about 6'4", 6'5".
Yes, yeah.
Very, very tall. So he's able to be Zodiac and be very physically imposing.
Yeah.
And Gothica is another one where you see that side of him. But he's very, very good at being vulnerable. And I think it's such a testament to an acting ability to be able to kind of go completely against what you look like.
Yeah.
So that was the reason for that. So we're going to head over juror number 3 and go to juror number 4. This is perhaps my loosest bit of casting, and it's purely because I think he looks like what's his name, E.G. Marshall. I couldn't get this guy's face out of my head when I was watching E.G. Marshall, and that's Bryan Cranston.
Ah, okay. Yeah. No, he does look a bit like him, actually. Yeah.
And I think it's, what is it? Is it Trumbo?
Yes.
Where he's very similar looking.
Yeah.
He has glasses. He's very, buttoned up. He has a pencil moustache in that. But I can see him playing that.
Yeah.
Because, I don't think it's ever stated in this, but the juror number 4, I always see as being a doctor or a surgeon. Very clinical, very cold, hard facts, if not maybe an accountant.
Yes.
That type of thing. And I think Bryan Cranston could do that well, despite just looking on point with E.G. Marshall. Who about you?
Oh, well, Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, and
it's because of his performance in Glengarry Glen Ross.
Yeah, I can see that.
That very buttoned up character, although that character doesn't have the ethics and the cool and calm collectedness of E.G. Marshall, but I can see Kevin Spacey playing that sort of role. The other thing about doing this was, as I was like, oh, this guy, and then I looked into it and it was like, he's 75 now.
Yeah. I done the same.
I'm thinking about a lot of these actors in their prime, in their 90s and the 2000s.
I think as well, it's very hard to kind of look at actors and go, how old are they?
And a couple of times it's like, oh, this guy, oh, he's dead.
Yeah.
I wanted Henry Gibson. So he's the little Klopek from The Burbs. He's the guy at the bar with William H. Macy in Magnolia. Yeah. He's in a lot of Joe Dante films, Gremlins 2 especially, and Inner Space. But yeah, he died about 10 years ago. I was like, shit, I wanted him for juror number 9.
I can see that. Okay, juror number 5, which is...
This is the one that I think
Jack
we
Klugman.
Might have the same. I can't think of anyone else for this role but the guy that I've picked.
This was the one I found most difficult to cast.
This is the easiest one for me.
I went for it based purely on an actor who I'd like to see in this environment, and I'd already cast the rest of them.
Yeah.
So he's perhaps not necessarily, also because of his most notable role, perhaps in some way. Well, actually, now I'm thinking about it, maybe I am on point. But who have you got?
David Strathairn.
Don't recognise him.
Oh, you know him when you see him. Good Night and Good Luck, River Wild, LA Confidential.
Dave, how do you spell it?
Strath.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah?
I can see that.
He's got the he does have a physical resemblance.
I've never known his name, but for me, he's one of those guys who I'm just.
Oh, he's fucking horrible in Dolores Claiborne as well as the abusive. Piece of shit in that.
I think perhaps most people will know him as Jesus Christ. That's Jason Bourne, which has become a massive
is it?
meme thing. Yeah,
I'm not cool like that.
He's in the Bourne Ultimatum.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
And
David Strathairn, I think.
Yeah, I have gone for Michael C. Hall.
Dexter,
huh? Because I want to see him in something like this, and I'd already cast it.
Yeah.
2, now I'm thinking about it. One of Dexter's abilities is to be able to be completely forgettable.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's 100% right, but I would just like to see Michael C. Hall in an environment like this.
Yeah.
In that kind of. So perhaps that's the most out there in terms of. Does it really fit, or is it just because I want to see Michael C. Hall a bit more?
Yeah.
So juror number 6.
Yeah.
Who have you got?
Michael Smiley.
Michael Smiley, again, probably a face I recognise.
He's the Irish guy from a few Ben Wheatley films. Yeah,
yes,
and Alien Earth. I just thought someone who's quite gentle looking, but also will have no problem sparking you out if you push him.
Mm-hmm.
Working class sort of thing. Yeah. Kind eyes. Yeah, Michael Smiley.
I like that. I like that.
I was surprised at myself for picking
mine
that.
is completely different. Mm-hmm. I've gone for Delroy Lindo.
Cool. Good.
A guy who
I didn't know till yesterday was British, apparently.
Is it British in the sense of he was born here but moved very early?
Maybe I didn't look any further into it, but
because if that's a put on accent, I don't think it is a put on accent. His American accent. I think he speaks like that anyway. Yeah. But I mean, he's everything I've seen him in has been phenomenal.
Yeah,
and he's another one of those characters who, for me, holds similar kind of gravitas to a James Gandolfini, where he immediately. I think, has he been nominated for an Oscar?
Yes.
His performance in Sinners?
Sinners, yes.
And when he was, I didn't realise he was in that before I went to see it. And I was just like, I'm so glad he is in it.
I'll just order that on 4K. Yeah.
He's just phenomenal in that.
Yeah.
And I think he's a character who I think can play that, despite his tall stature, play that quite reserved, but...
step up.
When he steps up and says, hey, you don't speak to people like that.
Yeah, that's right.
3.
Yeah.
I can see that. Juror number 7. Who have you got?
Oh, John C. McGinley. Scrubs. Last Outlaw. The Rock. Platoon. The callow sergeant in Platoon.
Yes, yeah.
I see him as a kind of playful, kind of lounging around, talking about the baseball sort of guy.
Yeah.
Again, he might be a bit older now, but
certainly 90s.
I did have some reserves: Christian Slater, and Jonah Hill.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I thought this was the one we would probably get the same.
Okay.
Because I went for John Cusack.
I've been thinking, John Cusack. I love John Cusack.
In my head, I was like, either Gaz puts the same or at least thinks about.
I have thought. I thought about Cusack actually for Juror 10 because I remember him in The Frozen Ground being a vile piece of crap, and there's a bit in that where he's the most repugnant human being on earth, and it's like, geez, I didn't know Cusack had it in him.
Yeah, the reason for that is if you've seen Runaway Jury, he's obviously. If you know the story of Runaway Jury, he has a much deeper ulterior motive.
Yes.
But on the face of it, looks like he doesn't really want to be there. Sure. And actually one of his reasons for not being on jury duty is that there's a Madden NFL PlayStation game tournament, and that's why he can't do it.
Yeah. I would have got, damn it, I would have gone with that actually. Yeah, that's a good call.
So juror number 8, we're going to skip over as well. Juror number 9, I've gone for David Bradley.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool. Nice. Yeah.
Who I think, if you've seen him in Afterlife, he's very, very funny. But so there's points here where the guy who plays juror number 9 is quite kind of slyly funny. Yeah. I think David Bradley has that old enough to play the kind of he's just an old man type character. Although he's probably the same age as some of the people I've put in this list.
Yeah, this is it. I had to stop thinking about it eventually with the age thing, because a lot of the people I was thinking of are a lot older than I realised, and a lot of these guys in here are a lot younger than I realised.
Well, it's that thing of like a lot, when you look at somebody in their 30s and the 50s, compare it to now, and they look like, well, that guy looks like he's 60.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
I think that's quite a common sort of trend at the moment.
Yeah.
So I put David Bradley in that role. I think he would do wonders there.
Yeah. I said Danny Glover.
Danny Glover. Yeah.
My reserve was Dustin Hoffman.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can see either of those names. Juror number 10.
John Turturro.
Yeah.
My reserve is John Goodman.
Mm-hmm. Oh, John Goodman.
Both of whom are in Barton Fink, of course.
Yeah. John Goodman in that role.
Yeah.
I've gone for Mark Gaston. Sorry, Michael Gaston, not Mark Gaston, who is that guy.
Okay.
So he's one of those characters or character actors who's in lots and lots of things. So some of the things he's in, let's just have this. He's in First Reformed, The Leftovers, playing Dean. He's in The Man in the High Castle, Bridge of Spies. He's been in lots and lots and lots and lots of stuff.
There's a face not name guy.
And I've seen him. I can't quite remember what, but I've seen him in something where he is very, very.
This is such a powerful scene, this bit where juror number 10 is just ranting and everyone just slowly turns their back on him and moves away from him.
Yeah, it is, and it's this is the moment when it's the most clear.
Yeah,
that if you do get him to turn, it's not going to be because of him agreeing with you. It's going to be because he just wants out. Yeah, and actually, it's kind of what he ends up doing.
Yeah. And again, juror number 4 is one of the few who doesn't stand up, not because he agrees with juror number 10, but because I think he's willing to. He will listen to people to the very last possible second, and then he's the one who finally says, "Yeah, we've listened to what you say. Now sit down and don't open your mouth again," which is just so cool. Yeah, this is if you wanted to say, this is how you confront racism, in 1 minute, this is how you do it. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I think it's, and from a visual point of view, on screen, but also if you were to do this on stage, so powerful. A simple thing of just everybody turning their backs on him.
And he's realizing how empty his soul is now.
Yeah,
and he goes and sits
it's
down.
The most
it's brilliant
visual metaphor for him being totally alone that you can get. So moving on to juror number 11, I have Stellan Skarsgård.
Yeah. I have. I'm denied about this one the most. I have Pedro Pascal or Goran Vizjanic.
Yes, I
thought about him. In fact, I think it probably should be him. He looks a lot like. Oh, what's his name? He played the bald guy in a wheelchair in Lost.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, he was Stepfather. Terry O'Quinn.
Yeah.
He looks a lot like Terry O'Quinn when he was in Young Guns. So I had Terry O'Quinn in my mind, but he is too old and is American and that sort of stuff. So yeah, Pedro Pascal, I guess maybe. But yeah, Goran Vizjanic probably actually, most resembles the character. A quite tall, elegant, graceful sort of guy. So yeah.
Juror number 12.
Will Arnett.
Yeah.
Reserve Ryan Reynolds.
I think Ryan Reynolds would tip it over the edge.
Yeah, true.
So I think you made the right choice there out of those two. I went for Glenn Powell.
Oh, cool. Yeah. That's a good call.
I think it needs to be somebody noticeably very, very handsome.
Yeah.
Interestingly, when I was looking at the 97 version before I put it on, I kind of forgot who was who in it. And I, for some reason, thought that William Peterson was juror number 8.
Yeah.
Rather than Jack Lemmon. Kind of forgot Jack Lemmon was in it. And then when he was in that role, I was like, oh yeah, of course. Like, that fits. So let's go all the way back to juror number 3 then. So this these two castings for either of our choices probably hinge on whether or not this movie will be great or not so great. So who have you got for juror number 3?
Ed O'Neill.
Ed O'Neill.
Right?
Good.
Yeah.
That is so good. That's so much better than mine. So much better than mine. Sometimes when you give yourself a challenge, you then forget every actor under the sun. I kind of feel like I've done that. I went for Paul Giamatti.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, he should be in this. Well, he should be in this as anyone, actually.
And I'm talking, you know, I'm not talking kind of like 90s negotiator Paul Giamatti. I'm talking, you know, 5 years ago, Billions Giamatti.
Yeah, yeah.
If anybody's seen him in that, where he, you know, he plays the good guy, but he's doing the good stuff for the wrong reasons.
Oh, okay. I had a couple of reserves.
Yeah.
Denzel Washington.
Yeah, yeah.
Or Billy Bob Thornton.
It's interesting with Billy Bob Thornton because I, for years and years and years, hated that guy. Everything he was in, I was like, oh, it's got him in it.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in the slightest. And I haven't seen the second series yet, but I've just got done with the first series of Landman.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
And he's turned me.
Oh,
like,
cool.
now I'm just like, I get it. I get Billy Bob Thornton now.
Yeah.
Yeah, any of those names.
I've not watched it, but I did see a clip of it where he talks about how, you know, the windmill things for generating energy, how they actually take a lot more oil than to just maintain them. So yeah, it's like quite chilling. It's like, oh.
Yeah, I think either of those names. I think so. On to juror number 8. I had 2 names, and I went for somebody with a slight more name value, just because of trying to not recreate, but obviously you need somebody in that role that people will listen to.
Yes,
and the other name, whilst I don't think they wouldn't have, I think sometimes having a name behind it. So the name I settled on was Forrest Whitaker.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And there's, I think it's Phone Booth.
Yes. Yeah.
Where he's pleading with, and the way he's like trying to, you know, talk with Colin Farrell's character, he's very convincing, and you want to kind of, I immediately trust him.
Yeah.
Which is obviously completely different from his turn in The Last King of Scotland. But the other name that I had in that role, again, another kind of left field-ish choice, was Charles S. Dutton.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's cool. Yeah.
I'd love Charles S. Dutton.
Yeah.
He's not in much, and often he's in sort of like films like Gothica, where it's not a great movie.
Yeah.
But because he's in it, I kind of like the movie a bit more.
Yeah.
He's obviously in Alien 3.
Yeah.
He's in lots and lots of things, and it's just something about Charles S. Dutton. But I think I had to go with someone who's slightly more name recognition.
Yeah, I went for James Cromwell.
Yes, I see that. I do like James Cromwell.
Yeah, I think he's got that sort of look. He's quite a liberal guy in real life. So, yeah. I did have some reserves. I mean, when I brought this concept up to my friends, somebody said Kevin Costner.
He was a name that was floating around in my head. And the only reason I didn't is because I thought maybe it's too much of trying to recreate that American.
Yeah.
You know, he's for me,
he
is pretty much Henry Fonda of now.
Yes, yeah.
You know.
Jeff Daniels was another one.
Yes,
yeah.
Jeff.
Yeah. I even thought about Denzel Washington for that.
Yeah,
he could play either.
When you said Denzel Washington, I thought, he could go in that role.
Yeah. Oh, this is the magical moment of the film. Juror number 4's kind of realization. And again, I mean, he could easily stick to his guns, but he's not entirely jubilant about it, but he knows that he has been convinced, and just seeing that change of mind, it's just so noble, and kind of, he's not doing it for noble reasons, but it's just brilliant. The person I think that they would cast to get people to watch it, to get people through the door, because he's this sort of character, for Juror number 8 would be, I think, Tom Hanks.
Yeah, he was a name that I immediately thought of.
That would be the guy who takes a little bit of a pay cut, but is enough. But
I specifically didn't choose him because I thought it was too obvious.
Yeah,
it was too much like. Yeah, I think as well you've got to think in modern day, Chris Pratt's gonna be in there somewhere because
I don't know. Actually, I think
not
people are getting a little bit sick of him.
Perhaps, but I think Timothy Chalamet would probably be in there at one point. Maybe he's a bit too young.
Well, he could be the guy. He could be the kid on trial.
Yeah, his prejudice is that he's half French. I think if this was 10 years ago, there would have been a massive push for Jai Courtney to be in it because he seemed to be in everything.
Yeah,
where they were like they really wanted to make him a star.
I just can't forgive him for Terminator Genesis, unfortunately. Although he was really good in the first Jack Reacher film, and he's done some good stuff. And he was good in that. What was that shark movie last year?
Oh, I haven't seen that. Dangerous Waters.
Yeah, he's great.
I really want to watch that. I don't think he's too bad in Suicide Squad because he's not being Jai Courtney, leading man, trying to look cool. He's actually like playing a little bit. He's not too bad in Jack Reacher.
Yeah.
Which brings me on. You could probably put Tom Cruise in Juror number 8's role.
I don't know if people would go for that.
I don't think people would go for it, but I've come around a lot to Tom Cruise recently. I went on a massive Tom Cruise binge.
Yeah.
And
I've always thought he's been brilliant.
I don't know. I don't. Not that I never thought he was good, but there was always a point where I was just like, it's Tom Cruise. There's something, and actually,
well, it's because he's been in Mission Impossible and nothing but Mission Impossible for so long. People, and all you need to do is watch Rain Man, or especially Born on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
If anyone's got any doubt about what that guy can do on the screen, Born on the 4th of July will absolutely break your heart.
Maybe give Far Away a bit of a miss.
Yeah.
I need to see Legend.
Yeah. But he's never put in anything less than 100% performance.
No. And I think that's kind of what's got me around to is that as much as he's obviously kind of playing pretty much the similar sort of character majority of the time.
Yeah.
I never see Tom Cruise, if that makes sense, which seems like such a oxymoron thing to say. I mean, we've just come up to the final kind of monologue, which I had the pleasure of playing, and it's such a difficult monologue to get right because it's very easy to get it all at one level to just shout it, and actually the brilliance of Lee J. Cobb's performance is knowing when to bring it back down.
Did you do an American accent?
No. Mainly because I think the reason we all decided is because none of us could really properly do American accents at the time.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly great at it, and I think it was a thing of, getting in the way of, sometimes an accent can take a great performance to hell. Sometimes it can save a performance because it's just funny to watch. What was it? There was an accent. There was a film the other day that I was watching, and there was somebody who had an accent, and it was hilarious. And I can't think what it is now. But Lee J. Cobb knows how to bring light and shade to this moment because it's so easy to just shout the whole thing and to just get really there. And it almost a little bit is like that for George C. Scott. As much as I like him in it and he plays the role very well, his final monologue in the 97 version is very much all up here.
Okay.
It's not all shouted, but it's all at this really kind of angsty, angry kind of version. And actually, when it does get to the point where he breaks, it's kind of less, I find it less believable.
Yeah.
Whereas for Lee J. Cobb, what I like about it is that you can see he's still, even now, trying not to show how he feels. And I think that's such a depiction of particularly men in the 50s. But
back in 2009, when this was my favourite film, I had 2 or 3 different stag do's for different like groups of friends, and one of them was my church lot, and there was a lot of guys quite older than me, and they were organising stuff in town and stuff like that, and they're like, "What's your favourite film?" And I think they were expecting me to say like Die Hard or something blokey. And I was like, "Oh, 12 Angry Men," and they're like, and I realised that they'd set up, the centre to show a film before we went out. And so everyone turned up probably thinking, Gaz's favourite film would be something kind of like, or we'll be watching, I don't know, Universal Soldier or something stupid, I don't know. But then they're confronted with this black and white film set in one room, and they're like, what? Have we made a mistake here? This isn't Die Hard. But by the end of it, I mean, they were all really into it. In fact, there were a couple of people after this moment with Lee J. Cobb actually breaking down and tears. Obviously, they have perhaps got the same sort of things going on with their sons or something like that. But yeah, it's just an interesting way to start a stag do.
There was a moment when you said about having a stag do. I was like, "What? You all went to jury duty? How did you manage that?" I think one of the most.
We did sink a few beers. Don't worry.
Absolutely. I think that's a great way to start. Put your favourite film on. Absolutely.
Mm.
One of I think the most heartwarming moments of the film is one of the final things we see, and it's despite being almost polar opposites for the majority of the film, and probably still will be leaving the jury room. The fact that Henry Fonda has the emotional intelligence to not leave the guy on his own.
No,
and
absolutely.
to bring him his jacket.
Yeah.
Something like that is just, I think that really does show humanity in such a wonderfully beautiful, poignant way. And I think it's brilliant. And it's one thing that actually I think is ever so slightly ruined by the 97 remake, which finishes on a singular shot of juror number 3 walking out of the courtroom on his own.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which I think kind of discredit a little bit that
I love
moment.
how they just all disperse at the end of this one. And, well, look, there he is actually walking down on his own, funnily enough. But it is a bit more subtle. Yeah, I just like that they all go out and they carry on, and they go in, they literally and metaphorically go in different directions, and that's the end of it. Just a real snapshot of masculinity of America. It
is just such a masterpiece.
Yeah.
I think it's so timeless. I think, sometimes I find it very difficult to get on board with older movies, but here I was on board immediately. And I think there's only really one question that I can ask you to try and answer before we call it an end to the episode, and that is, in that situation, would you have voted guilty or not guilty?
Oh, gosh. Oof. I think, they do go into minute detail, don't they? You would hope that you'd keep your own emotions out of it, and you'd stick to the evidence that's presented, which is something that's tricky to do nowadays. And, it's funny. I mean, nowadays, everyone's so used to, I don't know, all these kind of, true crime things and podcasts this and Netflix crime that, and I think everyone thinks that they know what's going on. I think the reality is probably very, very different, and it would I think it is now quite difficult to be someone like juror number 4, for example, and to shut out all different kind of possible interpretations and stick to the truth as you see it. It's a tricky one.
I think I would just flip flop. I think, despite obviously some of the arguments for guilty being very, very flawed, there are some strong arguments both for and against.
Absolutely.
I think that goes back to the beauty of the movie, is that despite the prejudice, despite the clear biases, there is a question mark.
Yeah.
You know, is it enough of a question mark for reasonable doubt? Probably, yes, there is. But knowing my luck and my cynical worldview, I would be convinced he's not guilty, and then it turns out he done it. You know, that's.
But that's you know, but a juror, you know, that's the burden. You know, you make the decision based on the evidence you're shown, and you know, if the lawyers kind of do a better or a less good job, then that's going to influence things. Really, you can only go with what's in front of you.
Absolutely, and I think the last thing I will say to Luke is that despite our cast lists, come up with your own cast lists, any listeners, because I think it's a movie that has a lot of potential even in 2025. And I think the beauty of it is that you could do a remake and it not be as good and it's still not tarnish the legacy of it, and then in 5 years do another remake with a different case. One thing I was thinking of, I'd love to see like a 3-part miniseries where each episode is the same situation but a different case. One case is very much like what we see here. Maybe the next episode it's everybody thinks he's not guilty and one guy tries to convince him he's guilty. There's another episode where everybody's just confused and nobody really knows what's, you know, that's what I would like to see. And that's down to my own thing of wanting to see more legal dramas. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Bury Our Bones with Cinema. We really appreciate you joining us as we deep dive into the world of film. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media pages to stay informed. You can find us on YouTube, TikTok and Instagram at Bury Our Bones with Cinema. You've been listening to Jimmy Murphy, Gaz Evans and Ryan Etherington. We will see you next time for more cinematic discussions and hidden treasures. Until then, don't forget to keep your bones buried in the world of cinema.
And it will be a one-button job. Boom, 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 toom, toom, toom.
I have a terrible tendency to just swear without but if you're talking, when we're doing it, I still find it slightly distracting.
It's a bit weird, but I think it's a bit weird, but I suppose...
maybe if you listen to this back, see if it sounds... I was like, I'm going to have to stop it. You listen to it back,
Good job I observed that well, wasn't it?